Hi, I'm Retallick of the Law of Attraction Club. This video is the audio from the first of 3 open conference calls that we're holding on the basics of the Law of Attraction. What we thought we would do is go back over some of that stuff for folks that haven't been with us very long, to give them some context for some of the discussions that we're now holding on in this community. This first one's on what we call the absolutes. What are the things that lie beneath all belief systems? What's at the basis of everything? In other words, the things you're not at choice about, and therefore, by definition, that tells you what you are at choice about, which, by the way, pretty much everything. It was my intention going into this call to be handling most of this from the me-Robin perspective, but as you'll hear from the audio, Tara got in on the action pretty early and they pretty well took over the call. That first link in the description below here will get you to the whole call. This video is about the first 15 minutes, and the rest of the call is mostly questions from participants and Tara's responses. And if you'd like to get to that, click that first link and you can download it. If you want to get to the second call and third calls, and you may be in time to actually join those calls if you'd like to, there's another link below that. You may need to click the show more in the description below here in order to get to it. That second link will get you call access. And by the way, we're holding these calls. Our plan is to do it maybe once a month, some open calls. So if you've missed calls 2 and 3, you can still click that link and get a pin and access. And by the way, we'll notify you then when the calls are coming up, and you can join the calls. Bring your questions. No questions too big, too small, no subject off limits. So there we are. Here's the audio.
Welcome everybody to Saturdays with Tara. This is in fact an open call. It's the first of a series of 3 calls we'll be doing, and we wanted to go back over some of the basics a little to give people who perhaps haven't been with us for so long a chance to get up to speed with the context of the conversations we're having here. On these calls, you will hear people channeling. You'll hear me channeling. You'll hear Mary Beth channeling, particularly on the Wednesday call where she's the designated channeler, if you like. And on Thursday, where Rachel is the designated channeler. That's just an arrangement we have here where we agree to take on the principal role for that particular call. If you're a member of the club or you've been with us for a while, it gets to be pretty obvious to you when it's us humans speaking and when it gets to be more of the hordes, as we affectionately call them, more of Tara speaking. If you're not used to the way that happens, that can be a little confusing. So this morning we will attempt to make it very clear when it is Tara that's speaking and when it is that one of us is speaking. And it may be Mary Beth, and it may be Mary Beth channeling, it may be me, and it may be me channeling. And just a word about that channeling thing, because for a lot of folks it seems to be very woo-woo, very momentous, very special, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Extraordinary. And it seems that we are now talking, and you will hear us as we enter the conversation here. Robin describes this as an attack of the I-we's, because as we elbow our way into the room here, he starts saying we, and that's a sure sign that we are here. We would say there is nothing extraordinary about what is happening here, and for each of you, there's a conversation that's going on between you and your inner being, mostly below the level of your consciousness. And all that's happening here is that you are hearing some of that surface into consciousness. It is nothing very extraordinary at all once you know the process. It is nothing very holy or sacred either. And the best way we can describe it is that, as always, it's a collaboration between us and the person who is talking, in this case, Robin. And sometimes it will be more of his voice, and it feels to him more like him, and sometimes it'll be more of our voice and it feels to him more like us. And so that is when you'll hear us say we. And so we will try and make it fairly obvious this morning when it is that we have, if you like, elbowed our way through and are talking to you, and when it is him that is talking. So on behalf of him and Mary Beth and all those in the club, we say welcome to this call. We would like to go over some of the basics with you. We would like to present to you some information about the nature of this game you are playing, to have you understand where you are and what you are doing. We are going this morning to be talking of this in perhaps some new ways that you may not have heard before. And for some of you, it may be a big stretch or a small stretch of your minds to get yourself around the way in which we are describing the nature of your world. It doesn't matter too much really if you can get your mind around it all in one sitting or even in any sitting, because all you really need to know is that the simple truth is that all you have to do is reach for the better feeling thought at any time in your life, at any time in your world. Just reach for the better feeling thought, reach for the better feeling thought. And by that process, you start to create more and more of that which you want. That's it. That's the whole story. But for many of you, in order to immerse yourself in that process, in order to get some tips and techniques, in order to get some confidence that you really know how it all works, we go into this explanation a little more to give you some depth of understanding about who you are and the nature of the world that you are in. And that is the purpose of these discussions. That is the purpose of these calls. That is why we are, if you like, stretching your minds to some extent about the nature of who you are and the nature of who we are and what this life on earth, this game that you have elected to play here, is all about. So let us begin here. We would talk a little of the history of this community. When this one and Nina first set out with this community, this one in particular had been listening to, studying, participating in the seminars of Abraham through Esther Hicks for 18 years of what he likes to think of as his past, and listened to 2,000 plus hours of their audios and been at their seminars and been in the hot seat and so on. And at that time, back in 2008, he thought he had a pretty good idea of the way it all works. He thought he understood the law of attraction, and he thought he at least had some sense of what channeling was all about. It is fair to say that it has been a wild ride ever since, in that his understanding and the understanding of those in this community has gone ahead by leaps and bounds. We would, through Eva, his other half here, when Eva began channeling, when Nina was channeling, he had unlimited access to us, virtually unlimited. And he and Eva would, on a daily basis, turn off the TV at night and get into questions with us. And as you might expect in that environment, things get asked in a new way, and things open up in a new way, and things that seemed a bit of a mystery before suddenly become clear and come true. And so, as we said, it has been a wild ride ever since in his experience. And one of the things that surprised him, there were many. As I said, he thought he knew most of it, and he discovered he knew only a small piece of it, as he still knows only a small piece of it, but at least he feels he understands more of it now. So one of the things that was new was that when the community began and they started promoting themselves publicly and seeking members, they got involved with the much bigger world of spirituality, channeling out there on the worldwide community, in the internet and so on. The first thing that happened was that there were many, many stories out there about the nature of things. And many of those stories were channeled and they were intricate and ornate, and there were many capitalized words used that needed definition. And this one was confused about it all and said to us, "What's going on here? What's happening with all these stories?" And we responded, of course, by the law of attraction. You attract to yourself that which is a match to you. And that attraction is not just the physical world in which you reside. It is everything in your experience. It is everything in your experience, and that includes that which you might encounter spiritually. So we, on this call today, are a function of that which you have attracted. And we'll talk perhaps some more about that later. But he discovered that everybody's world conforms to what they believe. And so then the question became, well, since our beliefs are choices, you don't often perceive that your beliefs are choices because you think you have learned what this world's all about as you go through life. You think you have found out what the world is like, and that's what you've come to believe. In reality, the opposite is true. So the world that you see out there is what you are creating. And the beliefs about it are your choices. And you have practiced those choices since you were very small into what you know and expect, what you believe, what are certainties now in the way in which you create. And so what then became the question? What then lies at the basis of it all? What is there beneath all of those belief systems that is absolute, is the word that he has chosen to use, and we think it's not a bad word. What is absolute? And the first thing that is absolute is you exist as a part of all that is. There's no choice about that. You exist as a part of all that is, God, the universe, whatever name you prefer to give it. You exist as a part of that. Pure positive energy. We use the word positive. In truth, there's no positive or negative. It's just energy. But we use the word positive because we want to imply to you that there is nothing inherently in the energy of all that is that could be called negative. There's nothing there that can be harmful. There is nothing to fear. There is only that which you make of it. So there is the first absolute. There's you as a part of God. And the next absolute is the law of attraction. As long as there is individuation, it's a long word, sorry, we don't have a better one. As long as there seems to be individual clumps like us and like you, as long as there seems to be separation, although there is none, as long as there is separateness, as long as there are different intentions from different pieces, which is really what defines you, your intentions, then the law of attraction applies. It is the organizing principle of all energy flow. And energy is matter. And so it is the organizing principle of everything in the universe. So there's number two. Let's go over those two. Firstly, you are part of all that is, God, the universe, pure positive energy. Secondly, everything in your experience answers to the law of attraction. You attract into that experience that which matches your vibrational set point. That which is a match to you is the world you create. And number three, and perhaps even number four are a little different. Number three says, apart from 1 and 2, you're at choice in everything. There's nothing you cannot be, do, or have. There's nothing you cannot change. And so if you choose to change your point of attraction, and it is a choice, then what shows up in your experience will match that new point of attraction. So you are at choice in everything. Number 4, perhaps we haven't talked so much as being an absolute principle, but in effect it is. And that is, when you are creating that which you want, you feel good. When you are creating that which you do not want, you feel bad. And the good may be from peace through to joy, through excitement to ecstasy. And the bad may be from mild boredom down through anger, frustration, down to desperation. So if you are feeling bad, you are creating what you do not want at that point. And if you are feeling good, you are creating what you want. So here are the fundamentals of your world. You're a part of God. The law of attraction is bringing to you that which you are a match to. And you're at choice in what that is. And you know whether what you are choosing at any point is a match to what you want by whether you feel good or whether you feel bad. So those are the absolutes. Beyond that, everything is a choice. That you live in this world with time and gravity and space and plants and flowers and animals and mountains and countries and molecules and a moon and a galaxy. That you live in this type of environment, that you experience this world is a choice. And the nature of it is a choice. Now, it may not seem like much of a choice, but it's a choice. So we use that as, if you like, a wild example of saying you can change anything. You're at choice in anything. And so when you hear stories of the way things are, allow yourself to come back to this conversation, if you will. Allow yourself to come back to the point of seeing that this is a choice. I can accept this and take it into my belief system and have it be a part of my world, or I can choose not to. And so as you experience things, you are always at choice. Think of the things that you have come to choose in your lifetime. Think of the things since you were born that you have come to know. You could say, of course, as we've said, you could come to know them because you experience them and therefore you discover what they are. And we say it is more the other way around. It is because you start to experience what this world is, because you form expectations, so the world conforms to that. So there you are. Those are the absolutes. And there are many, as we have said, many varied stories that go into great detail beyond all of that. If a particular story about the world or about the way things are appeals to you, then you are, of course, at choice as to whether you pursue it and believe in it and follow it and play with it. And if it is fun playing with it, we say play on, play on, play on. But if at any point it ceases to be fun, then we recommend that you make a choice that is different, that you choose differently, that you choose to step into a world in which that is not so. And that is your option. That is always your option. So if you feel, as some do, that it is your task to save the world because the world is in fact in some trouble, then we would say that can be a fun game to play. But if it is not a fun game to play, if as many people who choose that game find that they are on the losing side of what is happening, that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, that things are getting worse, oh, woe and behold, things are getting worse and it is not a pleasant game to play, then we would recommend that you do not play that game, that you choose to live in a world that is thriving and that is fun to be in, and that is once again your choice.
Well, that was the first part of the call, and just to whet your appetite a bit, here's what the questions were. First question was from Helen: how did all this begin? And is it beyond our ability to comprehend? And then Don asks, is time an absolute? Because I seem not to be able to change approaching deadlines. And then Gigi asked one of those great questions, which is how to leave her job and follow her passion, how and when. Then Don again asked whether it is not simpler just to always reach for that better feeling thought without going through perhaps processes for trying to change things. And finally Sue asks, is the time frame it takes to change things different for different things and different people? So there you are, folks. It's the first of 3 open calls covering the basics of the law of attraction. If you'd like to get the full audio for that hour, just click that first link in the description. If you'd like to join us for the calls 2 and 3 in this series, or on our monthly open calls, then click show more in the description and click number 2 down there, link number 2 for call access. Come join us.